Well, the Tigers get absolutely smacked heading into the All-Star break, swept by Seattle. We'll talk about that, the futures game, and some more about the All-Star festivities all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, July 14th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Welcome in, welcome all. Happy Monday. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. The Detroit Tigers did not have a fantastic weekend. They get swept by the Seattle Mariners. And the final score for all three of these games ends up not even being very close. They lose 12-3 on Friday, 15-7 on Saturday, and the closest game was an 8-4 final on Sunday. Unreal. Not great. The Mariners improved to 51-45. The Tigers fail to reach the 60-win mark before the All-Star break. Now, like going into the season, obviously they you didn't think, oh wow, they got to hit 60 or else the season's a failure. But expectations change as the season goes along. And I think going into the weekend, you were 59-36. Is that math? 35. 59-35 heading into this weekend series. And, failing to hit 60 in that, micro viewpoint is certainly a little bit disappointing. But, first thought, this is obviously a really rough weekend. The pitching just completely imploded. Completely. The offense wasn't stellar. Okay. I'm not trying to make it sound like, they lost every game 18-20. Like the offense was not incredible, but 14 runs in 3 innings isn't awful either. That's a solid weekend series. That's an above average, honestly. Weekend set offensively. The starters outside of Jack Flaherty struggled. That's Mize and Skubal. The bullpen was awful. I genuinely try to find other ways to word that. Like I don't like, none of these guys are awful players, right? They're in the major leagues, dude. They are the most talented of the most talented, right? But there are very few other ways to describe the bullpen's performance this weekend than awful. And that's unfortunately including Will Vest and Tommy Kahnle and everybody else. So a weekend like this sucks. It certainly highlights what the team needs to add. We talk a lot about the fact that they need starting pitching help. They need bullpen help in a big way, right? So a weekend like this does that. Also, I want to reiterate that, this is not the end of the world either. The Dodgers just lost 6 or 7 in a row. They're still the Dodgers, okay? It's an 162-game season. They will probably be swept again by somebody at some point this year. Post All-Star break, okay? It's okay. But it certainly does not make the actual games themselves any easier to stomach or watch. They're very frustrating, and this team needs help. They cannot just stand pat and do nothing at the deadline if they want to continue this really fun season. And I think a series like that really showcases that as well. Mariners just pump the Detroit Tigers. They, like I said, they hit everything that was thrown. And you need swing and miss on your team. The crazier part is 2 of these 3 games were actually close, like late. I mean, Friday was a 7-run ninth inning, and Sunday, the Tigers had the lead going into the 8th, and it was tied going into the ninth. Frustrating weekend. Really, really, really poor pitching in general, but like bullpen performance. Let's start with what went wrong. This is going to shock you. I'm going to start off by talking about the pitching. 35 runs given up in 3 ball games. That is unbelievably terrible. That is over 10 runs a ball game. They were 1 away from 12 runs a game being the average. Tarek Skubal goes 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Probably the most we've seen him fight with himself, however you want to word it, while he's on the mound so far this season. Like even a couple of the other not stellar performances, the bar is just so high for him. Even in a couple of other performances that maybe fell short of his expectations, like you still saw a lot, or he still, was able to go into the 7th inning or something. This game really just didn't have much of anything. You had the 4 runs, 2 walks in only 5 innings is uncharacteristic of him. Wasn't an uber high strikeout total. And because it's, the All-Star break, he's going to pitch in the All-Star game, just yanking him after 5. I really don't have a problem with it. Just, you know what? Go take the rest of the day off. You've been great. This game is not doing you any favors. And then the bullpen just, made it completely out of reach. Anyway, just command, though. Like, the stuff is always elite. It's Tarek Skubal. But yeah, just had a hard time finding the zone, which is something we haven't said very often about Tarek Skubal in the last 2 calendar years. Carlos Hernandez pitched twice this weekend. Got absolutely crushed on Friday. Brant Herter gets absolutely crushed. Jake Rogers, I guess, doesn't. Jake Rogers, position player pitching. Jake Rogers goes out there and records 3 outs. Good for him. Tip of the cap. Casey Mize, 3 innings, 6 earned runs. Not very good performance from him. Could not miss any bats. Hader Montero gets a lot of innings. Like that decision, actually, a lot to go to Montero. All-Star break. He's not going to get another start before the break. We need innings. I think that makes total sense. I thought it was a really good decision. Just, he also was throwing batting practice. Chase Lee gives up a couple more runs. Tyler Holton pitches twice this weekend, gives up a home run in each outing. He's been really good lately. Wasn't very good this weekend. Now, I mean, compared to the rest of the team, I'll take Holton's performances over pretty much everybody else. But, man, like I said at the start, even Will Vest and Tommy Kahnle as well. Will Vest could not find the strike zone, immediately enters the game on Sunday, walks 2 batters. Tommy Kahnle throwing home run derby a day early, just hanging changeups over the heart of the plate. Yeah, I think that this is a much needed all-star break for the pitching staff as a whole. And like specifically the bullpen, right? The starters, you're kind of in that routine and rhythm. Like you have the same amount of days off between all your starts, but like this is just so needed. Just get some rest. Don't even pick up the remote on your couch over the all-star break. Just rest for a couple of days. And, yeah, we'll regroup and hopefully not see pitching performances like this ever again, because this was an absolute atrocity. Need help starting pitching, need help in the bullpen. Offensively, like I said, it wasn't a terrible weekend. I don't have a super long list. I don't think there are only 2 guys that really jumped out at me that weren't pitchers that I think kind of you could say struggled all weekend, and that is the guys who have been struggling for the last couple of weeks, Parker Meadows and Matt Bierling. Matt Bierling continues to struggle at the plate. Parker Meadows continues to struggle at the plate. And Parker brings so much value defensively. Had 2 misreads in center field this weekend that cost the team base runners. So same thing for them. Hopefully the All-Star break is a nice reset for everybody involved. Pitching, hitting, coaching, everybody go take some time off and let's get back to the winning that we were doing so much of before this weekend. What went right? Like I said, two of these games weren't actually close late. So there was some decent ball that was played as well. We'll talk about that and more right after this. First, though, got to talk to y'all about our friends over at Game Time. We've all been there. Logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you have been absolutely dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. And that is exactly where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime. So you can save up to 60% off with killer last-minute deals all the time. If you're tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal, well, Game Time's zone deals pick the best seats in a section for you. If you've ever wondered what your seat will actually look like before you buy as well, for some extra confidence, well, the app shows you a panoramic seat view of all the seats as well, so there's no surprises. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, even after a series sweep. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping the Major League Baseball draft. First couple of rounds are on Sunday night. The rest of the draft will be on Monday. Because we have a whole weekend to talk about, futures game we'll talk about at the end of the show today. Because we have so much to address now, we're going to do that today. And then tomorrow we'll just do the whole draft recap, first round through 20th round on tomorrow's episode. Cool? Cool. What went right this weekend? Not a ton, but there were some positives. Riley Green had a couple of home runs this weekend, had a lefty-lefty homer in a high leverage situation on Sunday. Was really cool to see. That is 24 homer. Let's just go through his stats in general. These are Riley Green's stats at the All-Star break, people. Okay. 24 homers, 78 RBI, a 284 average, and an 879 OPS. That is unfreaking believable. That is absolutely stellar. If those were his stats at the end of the season, we'd be talking about how it was a solid year at the plate for him. Those are his stats at the All-Star break. Really has a chance to hit 40-plus homers, has a chance to push for dang near 120 RBI. Just a really, really awesome season, and a couple of home runs this weekend certainly help that as well. So, yeah, I know there's, the streakiness bothers some people, or the high strikeout rate bothers some people. But you'll average it out, I guess, is literally what we're doing over the course of 162. There's not too many outfielders on the planet right now that are going to have better stat lines than Riley Green after the last game of the season in October. And I think that is very important to remember. Javi didn't have like some uber fantastic weekend necessarily, but on Sunday made a huge impact, had a steal that directly led to the game-tying run, which was really cool to see. Then had a couple of really nice defensive plays on Sunday as well. So that was really cool to see. Just, again, reminder of his value, even if the offense isn't what we signed up for a couple of years ago, even if the offense is again, kind of streaky as well, kind of goes through long periods of time. He's hitting 9 most days at the end of the day, but has a lot of value that he still brings in the field and on the base path. So that was good to see. Gleyber Torres, really solid weekend. I think got on base 3 or 4 times on Saturday alone. Again, like just continues to be an on-base percentage machine. OPS back above 800 after the weekend too, which is really nice to see. His on-base percentage on the year, if I can find it here, goodness, is 387 heading into the break. 387. That is absolutely phenomenal. I think in a perfect world, you'd like a little bit more power, but given his role and given where he's in the lineup every night and given how good of a season the people behind him, Green, Torkelson, etc., have had, having a table setter like that you know is going to get on base has just done wonders for this lineup. Has been such a good addition. Winston Perez, pretty solid weekend, I think, had some pretty good at-bats. I don't know. I'm to the point where like I'd be okay if he played every day. And I know that there's kind of a log jam. There's guys that you want to give at bats, etc. Especially if and when Kerry Carpenter comes back here after the All-Star break. But I really like the at bats that Winseal's been offering lately, and I think that he should at least be in consideration to be in the starting lineup pretty much every day. Only other thing I want to highlight on the side of things that went right here before we get into a lot of stuff from over the weekend is Jack Flaherty. 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. His ERA is now 4.65 on the season. Yeah, it's weird. This is kind of becoming a trend, which I'm not sure if I love or hate, that his first inning of work is absolutely terrible, and then the rest is actually pretty darn good. 7 strikeouts, really good day at the office, only 2 earned runs, pretty solid day at the office. I mean, most of the base runners he gave up were in that first inning, and then it was kind of the Jack Flaherty we saw last year. So, I don't know. Like, do you just kind of like hold your breath the first time through the lineup, the first 2 innings ish, and then after that you're just kind of good? Like, I don't know if that's really a recipe for sustained success, rather, and consistency. But that is a few outings in a row that have looked like that. I guess it's in a way kind of reassuring just to know that like the Jack Flaherty of last year is in there. It's just let's do it from jump, let's maybe not. And that's obviously way easier said than done. I'm sure he's trying things and making adjustments and whatnot. It's very easy for me to just say, hey, be better. But like, that's obviously a pretty glaring issue this season as a whole, and certainly over his last few outings. Let's talk stuff. Cal Raleigh is absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. And as I was a catcher my whole life, as somebody who loves the catcher position, I can't help but ooh and ah this weekend over Cal Raleigh. So valuable behind the plate, so valuable in the batter's box, is just hitting tanks all season, is drawing walks. He is just truly remarkable. I think falls 1 home run shy of tying Barry Bonds' all-time record for home runs before an All-Star break at 39. Cal Raleigh, I think, ended with 38. Just ridiculous that he almost had a 40 home run season, I guess, but a 40 home run pre-All-Star break is mind-boggling. Again, especially considering what he does for the Mariners behind the dish. Unbelievable. Aaron Judge is still Aaron Judge. I think Aaron Judge would still win MVP if the season ended today. Cal Raleigh would be unanimous second place and may even steal some first place votes from him. He's the only person even in the same stratosphere as Judge. It's those two this season and then everybody else. So although it sucked to see him absolutely dominate, 2 home runs in a game, 1 a grand slam on Friday, you got to appreciate greatness. Appreciate greatness when it is in front of you. And that is certainly what everyone is doing with Cal Raleigh. Futures game. Let's talk about that and how the Tigers representatives did right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. So one of my favorite and least talked about, kind of underrated events from every All-Star weekend is the Futures game. And that was this weekend. You had Max Clark, Jose Briseño, and Kevin McGonigal, being called the Big Three by Tigers fans and media, all make this game and all kind of prove that they deserve to be there. Max Clark gets an infield single on a ball that he really had no business getting an infield single on. And on top of that, he beat it out comfortably. Thought that was kind of cool. But draws a walk, shows off the base running as well, stolen base. Just looks really like a solid all-around player and kind of, showed out as, we know that he's big into social media and kind of the flair and everything. So you knew that he wanted to do so on that big stage, and I think he certainly delivered. Jose Briseño hits a monster triple, crushes a baseball off the right field wall. I'd imagine that's a home run in some parks. They probably had Savant for this game. Now that I think about it, I probably could look that up. But absolutely smokes a triple in this one, which is really cool to see. And then McGonigal, goes 0 for 2, but put the ball in play both times he was up there. Actually looked pretty darn solid at shortstop defensively, I thought, as well. This game is so awesome always. I love the Futures game. We have seen Mizorowski, good. I can never say his name. I'm just going to not even try again and move on. In Milwaukee, I remember when he pitched in the Futures game a few years ago, and just everybody's jaws were on the floor, and we were like, oh my goodness, he's throwing 103, right? And then now he's doing it at the major league level, and he's an all-star after 15 or 25 innings or whatever it is. It is so cool to see the players before they're the players. And that's just such an awesome thing. And I think that baseball should do a much better job of kind of marketing this game, because I think it's genuinely one of the coolest events that Major League Baseball puts on all season. So awesome that we had some Tigers representation. Also awesome goodness that they looked good. We had, I remember Colt Keith a few years ago was in this game. Malloy has been in this game. Job has been invited. I'm not sure if he ever pitched, just because of pitchers are kind of weird that way. But yeah, this was a really, really cool weekend. You got to see the future of tomorrow today, as they say, and a lot of good pitching in this game as well, which is always really cool to see. Today, as you listen to this, Monday night is the Home Run Derby. I saw some people giving the Home Run Derby field kind of a hard time and kind of criticizing it. I like it. I know there's no, Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper and maybe not the biggest names in the sport necessarily, but in terms of pure just exit velocity darlings and people that hit tanks, it's full of those. You got a lot of people that can hit home runs and hit the ball really, really hard. I really like that O'Neal Cruz is in it, right? Hits the ball over 120 miles an hour. There is a lot of I think excitement in the game. Maybe that's just being a stats nerd, and maybe fans are just looking for the biggest name, which I don't tell anybody how to be a fan. That's fine if that's what you want to see, and in the future they'll adjust accordingly if the ratings suck. But I really think that this is a home run derby field that is getting unjustifiably criticized, but we'll see. I say that, and then everybody will put up a Brandon Inge performance on Monday night, but we'll see how that goes. All-Star game is Tuesday. Over the weekend, Casey Mize announced as the Tigers' 6th All-Star. That is 6 players. That's not even including Frankie either. If you include Frankie, that's 7 members of the Tigers organization all going to Atlanta for the All-Star break and for the All-Star game, rather. Awesome stuff. Absolutely awesome. Good for Casey Mize. Obviously didn't have a good performance this weekend to kind of send him off into the break. I didn't think he was going to get it, to be honest. Obviously he had a sub-3 ERA before this weekend's outing, but the strikeout numbers weren't there, and there's a lot of really talented starting pitchers, and it took however many, a handful of pitchers that are all either injured or just like don't want to pitch, aren't going to participate in the All-Star weekend for him to get the nod. But for him just to get the nod is really, really cool. And so this has been one of the most fun first halves in easily over a decade, if not longer, of Tigers baseball. They have the best record in baseball at the All-Star break. I think that's important to remember in the context of like this weekend, right? You got swept by the Mariners. That sucks. They got absolutely smacked in all 3 games. The Tigers have the best record in baseball at the All-Star break. And that is something I never in a million years thought I was going to be saying going into this season. So tip of the cap to Frankie and all 6 players that will be representing the Old English D in Tuesday's game for the American League. Also announced that Tarek Skubal will be the American League starting pitcher. It should be 2 years in a row, by the way. It is an absolute, I'm still mad about it. I may never not be mad about it. I'm like 30 years from now, I may still be complaining about how Tarek Skubal did not start for the American League in the 2023 All-Star game. It is such a joke to me that he didn't. But he finally gets the nod. Skeens versus Skubal, I think that's the matchup everybody wanted. I think that's the matchup that fans deserve. I think that's the matchup baseball wanted. 2 of the biggest brands of, starting pitchers. And I think there's a pretty easy argument. They're the 2 Cy Young favorites in the AL and NL up to this point in the year. So, really awesome that he finally gets the nod and finally gets the recognition. A year late, but we'll take it. And there's no funny business with like Fried, Atlanta. His manager is his manager. I was really scared it was going to be Fried, given all the surrounding, factors. But it is not. Actually, a really cool thing by Max Fried. He called Skubal and asked him if he wanted to start the All-Star game, and said like, "You deserve it. If you want it, you take it." And that's what Skubal did. So good for everybody involved there. This weekend, the Tigers also celebrated 25 years at Comerica Park. Obviously, this whole season is like the 25th year, but they had like a special giveaway and stuff throughout the weekend. I actually went to the game on Friday night and saw some of the stuff they put together. It was really cool. I did attend ball games in Tiger Stadium, but I was an infant, and I do not. My parents were those parents. Yes, my mom especially was. I'm going to a ball game, whether the kid's coming or not. So I was along for the ride. So obviously I don't have like memories from Tiger Stadium, but I have grown up with Comerica Park. Like I'm only 2 years older than Comerica Park, and so it is. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I know that there are people that are older than me that do not, just because Tiger Stadium held so many great memories and was, from everything that everyone's ever said about it was, such a nice park. But I really think they did a great job with Comerica. Certainly there's some facelifts that could happen in a few areas. Scott Harris has actually addressed some of those since becoming president of baseball ops, but I just have so many great memories, and genuinely on a summer night, there's no place I would rather be on the entire globe in the entire world, same thing ish, than Comerica Park. So to 25 years and hopefully to 25 more. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything. MLB draft, like I said, is first couple of rounds are Sunday night, so that'll already be over. This is the time that you're listening to this, but the rest of the draft will be on Monday. Tune in tomorrow of Locked On Tigers to see, well, there's so much coverage. So Tigers Minor League Report will have a stream during the draft where a lot of people, myself included, will be on kind of talking about it. I'm sure they'll post it after the fact if you want to go hear all of our opinion on whoever the Tigers take immediately. Then on top of that, I will be on Days of Roar, the Free Press's Detroit Tigers podcast with Evan Petzold. We'll talk about who the Tigers took in the first round there. And then I will recap it on this show tomorrow as well. So, boom. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we, of course, will be back tomorrow, like I just said about 50 times. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.